ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leo Charistios. I would like to thank, first of all, allow me to take a few seconds of your time and thank you for attending this event, which has been so well organized by the office here in Piraeus, which, as it was said before, I'm residing since April. I see that we have managed to be on time, so in order to go in accordance with the schedule, allow me to start the first session, which is about gas containment, storage and handling technology, and invite our first speaker, which is Mr. Jose Navarro, who's going to talk about the LPG technology and how legislation is driving design. I'd like to introduce the speakers before they get the microphone. So Mr. Jose Navarro is a naval architect with a degree in naval architecture and joined Lloyd's register during 1991. Previously, he worked at the University of Madrid on research and development projects. He has a broad-based experience in shipbuilding and repair work, which spans more than 25 years in the industry. As a surveyor with Lloyd's Register, his work has taken him to Spain, Denmark, various ports throughout Korea, China, Japan, Singapore, Italy, Malaysia and Houston. Jose has specific expertise in LNG operations and ship new building. He has been project manager on several complicated projects, which includes tankers, gas carriers, bulk carriers, chemical tankers and offshore vessels and passenger ships. He also brings extensive experience on docking and hull and machinery repairs. As principal gas technology specialist, Jose is involved on the development of the latest gas innovation and gas market challenges, working together with shipbuilders, designers and ship owners. Jose, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, Kalimera, if that is sound close to Greek. I'm very pleased to see all of you, see some friendly faces that I have met in Korea. Thank you, Leo, for the introduction. Let me check my time, because normally when I speak too much, and I think that there are more interesting presentations than the one that I'm trying to introduce today, covering a number of future legislation, IMO legislation, which have been already approved or is under discussion on IMO. And I will try to focus on on those four particular aspects: the revised International Gas Code, some particular aspect of SOLAS, MARPOL Annex 6, and the environmental issues. I was having this photo here with the person trying to escalate the mountain of documentation. I think that for next time that I have to do something like this, I will take a photo of this wonderful library. I'm so impressed with the amazing books and collection that you have here in Greece. So congratulations on that part. Okay. So if we move on the first topic, the revised International Gas Code has been already approved and is going to be applicable for all the gas ships which will be keel laying from the 1st of July 2016, so just around the corner. The code has been driven by a group of experts from industry, stakeholders, shipyard, designers, etc., and they were focusing on the regulation from the goal-based point of view, and trying to reduce the number of prescriptive rules that we have in the code. The result has not been as successful, I would say, as it was initially intended, and has come with many prescriptive rules. And some of those rules, they are not clear from the industry, which is a little bit surprising, because the revised International Gas Code was written by the industry. So, because of those new regulations, now there are a number of questions and clarification, mainly from shipyard and designers, and they are trying to find out what is actually the meaning of the regulation over those prescriptive rules. So we are working all together. Lloyd Register participating in several working groups within Ajax to try to clarify some of those aspects. Which are those aspects? Mainly are the aspects which are being modified in the code. And those are just some very brief summary of those. Which are the main ones? Probably is the distances which we have to maintain between the cargo tank and the side shell. And this is one of the aspects, especially for the type LPG ships, where the cargo tanks are normally divided in two sections, port and starboard side. Some industry maker has tried to decide, okay, if we take only half of the tank, then we can reduce the distance between the side shell and the cargo tank. Fortunately, there has been a consensus, and now everyone agrees that the cargo tank, a complete cargo tank, is the one which has to be driven the distances between the cargo tank and the side shell. Other aspects that are being interesting, particularly for ship owners, is the enhance on safety on the cargo containment system. It's not going to be a significant change on the cargo containment system that we already know, but it's going to be an additional calculation, additional fatigue calculation, crab propagation, which is going to give us more assurance of the properties of that cargo containment system, how the cargo containment system is going to develop, is going to perform well through the life of the ship. Other aspect which I would like to refer are the control of venting. The code now somehow not allow venting except for some particular cargoes, but when the industry asks us, okay, which cargo can we vent, actually in the code there is nothing. So we need to go back to the flag and say, okay, which cargo can actually vent it. But there is still one problem, is that every single gas, every single liquefied gas is always subject to vapor. That vapor has to be managed. It's managed sometimes by keeping inside the cargo tank when we are talking about Type C, but most of the time we are dealing with reliquefaction plants. Those reliquefaction plants require to condensate the vapor. The vapor not always can be condensated 100%, and therefore there are going to be some venting or some gas, and we need to agree how much is allowed to vent for all those cargoes. Fire protection, it has been also a headache for the designers, because there are some changes on the water spray system, there are some changes on the CO2 system, protecting the CO2, the compressor room, excuse me, and mixing the prescriptive requirement with the goal-oriented requirement, make the designer confused on how is the best way to apply the regulation which are in the code. So, for example, what is going to be the best solution for the water spray system? Are we going to talk about two different location fire pumps with a single fire line, or we are talking about a ring with two pumps and different isolating valves? So this kind of design challenges is the one that we are facing in this time. The designer is facing this time, and step by step we are solving the problem together with the designer and together with many of you which are already building those ships. And the last part I want to emphasize, which for me is extremely important, is the operational manuals. Until now we have had operational manuals on board the ship. What has been the case most of the time? Copy and paste exercise. When the crew, when the captain needed that to use that operational manual, they couldn't find anything. So, all right, we are not going to resolve the issue just from one day to the next, but at least we have introduced in the code a requirement that the operational manual required to be approved by the administration. So that will be an additional control of the people who is preparing those operational manuals. And we are working with some of those companies, very well positioned companies, in producing those operational manuals in order to make really efficient operational manual. So when the captain with the cargo engineer faces a problem in the middle of the sea, he actually have a document to refer, something that can help him, can help the ship, can help the crew to overcome that problem. So that is basically a very brief introduction of what is the revitalization code. If we move on into the solar aspect, there are a couple of aspects that I want to highlight. One is the mooring and towing arrangement, where IMO has been focusing on the number of incidents that the industry had an accident during mooring and towing system. So there are some guidelines, and IMO has put together a group of experts, both on the structures, both on the equipment fabrication and equipment design, and particularly as well on human element. And they are proposing some modification on those guidelines, and those modifications are now presently under review, and has been some evaluation of those modifications, and the figure is a little bit scary, because they have taken a sample of a MR tanker, and they have seen the equipment for the mooring and towing that MR tanker require, compared with the new or the proposed guidelines that they want to do, and they estimated that approximately the increase on the price of the ship is going to be in the order of $800,000. I think that the shipyard will work closer with everyone in order to reduce that figure, which is, I think that is too high. All right. Another aspect that has been also very important for IMO is the SOLAS Chapter 3 and the life-saving appliances. As you are aware, has been a number of incidents and accidents during the operation of the lifeboat, etc., and they are trying to focus on a functional requirement of the lifeboat, functional requirement of all the life-saving appliances, in order to eliminate all those incidents and accidents that have happened in the past. So it's going to be a revision of the Chapter 3. It's going to be goal-oriented. They are going to use the guidelines for goal-based standard that we have been using for the development of the common structural rules. And that's going to be a challenge, because as you may know, those of you who are operating bulk carriers and tankers, the common structural rules compliance with the goal-based standard is still under IMO discussion, okay, during this week. When all of this coming, probably 2017 is the target date. Next aspect on SOLAS is the subdivision and stability. Subdivision, in particularly three aspects. One of them is a U-10 from IMO. If you remember, about 4 years ago, we were discussing very, very heavily the possibility to fit a butterfly valve in the collision bulkhead. So finally, IMO has decided that the butterfly valve will be acceptable within the collision bulkhead. So that will be a modification on SOLAS. Another modification will be the requirement for watertight test of the hatches, and another modification will be the requirement to, if we have air pipes ending on the superstructure, those air pipe ending will consider as unprotected, except if there is any kind of positive means of closure of those air pipes. So that is an important enhancement of the regulation. And thank you, focusing that I'm already running out of time. An interesting point is the dynamic stability. As you know, stability is always has been considered always from the intact point of view. The ships are not on a static condition; they are in dynamic condition. So IMO is looking into a different way of evaluating the dynamic stability, considering when the ship is surfing the waves, when the ship is actually on the head of the wave and losing that buoyancy. So all these aspects are being addressing, and they are going to come with a new set of rules and calculations in order to evaluate how safe from a stability point of view is the ship. The good news is that it's going to be like a three-tier evaluation. So if the ship is very safe from a stability point of view, it's past the level 1, then it would not require to go to level second level or third level. So that is the positive part. And another positive part is that they are going to submit those calculations to the industry for evaluation, and that will allow the designer to raise their voice, their concern, whether or not the requirements are too strict or not. MARPO Annex 6, I think that practically everyone in the room is aware of the sulfur cap in worldwide, 0.8, which probably, most probably, if I have to bet here today, is going to be on 2020. So just around the corner. As you know, the subject is under discussion and will be opened up and decided in 2018. The other two aspects is phase 2 and phase 3 of the EEDI. There are some re-evaluation of the parameters, but still those dates are going ahead. You may have heard recently, last April, when the MEPC 69 was finishing, they decided that from the 1st of March 2018, every ship will have to report the fuel consumption. Every ship will feed back that information to the ship owner, the ship operational manager, and they will collect the data. The data will be passed to the flag, and the flag will report to IMO. So that is a massive task that we have in front of us. Some of you, I know, are already working in that task. What is the benefit is that the industry will know how much actually we are producing on the environment, and if we are very green, they will not focus so much on us, and if we need to do some saving on emission, they will put something on us to enforce the saving. And finally, I think I'm still on time. Three aspects, important aspects regarding environment. One is the confirmation of the ban of the, let me read this one, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, basically from the 1st of January 2020. How it's affecting to LPGs? Basically, all the foams which are being produced for insulation of the LPG tanks will have to be redesigned in order to meet those requirements. Good news, there are already some tables where it's possible to identify which gases we can use. Good news as well, there is a major shipbuilders in Korea which are already developing a foam together with 3 major insulation makers. This foam is fully compliant with the new regulation, and the more important thing, or another important thing, is that the foam has extremely good flammable resistant properties. We are talking about applying up to 850 degrees temperature to the foam, and the foam does not propagate any fire. So that would save a lot of life on the shipbuilding industry. And the last two comments is regarding ballast water management convention, which already is just around the corner to be ratified and will be mandatory in 12 months after that. And the last one is the International Convention for the recycling ships. And I highlight this one particularly because until now we have been focusing on the inventory of material. But I will ask you, please, to ask the shipyard to focus on the actual requirement of the convention, which is to minimize the use of hazardous material. It's not just a question of listing the material, it's about reducing the amount of hazardous material that will be on board the ship. Okay, and with this last slide, I finish today's presentation. I thank you, all of you, for coming today, and I hope that the next presentation will be also interesting for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jose. Can we take some questions from the floor? Any questions? Okay, then Jose, then allow me to ask a question. Then.
Oh, no.
With particular interest at the beginning of your presentation and the new revised IGC codes, you mentioned that it's an industry's effort. However, outcome was not so not successful. There were some complaints from the industry.
That's right.
The outcome, can you please explain what contribution the experience of glass societies has been captured in the revised IGC code?
Okay, the class societies has been working together with all those working groups, and that job was done through Sixto. It was a collaborative investment from all the classes, together with some of you, and together with the GPR and the designer. The problem that we are facing now is actually on the interpretation of those prescriptive rules, and that is where we are playing a major role. Because the GPR facing the problem on how to adapt the current designs to the new designs, and they have to apply that modification on an economic way and an operational way, effective way for you. So the good thing is that even when having prescriptive rules, it is still possible to go into the high level application of the goal oriented. So even if the rules in the code specifically ask for something, we may overcome that problem by applying an alternative way of compliance, as long as we fulfill the goal of that particular regulation. Okay,
thank you very much. I guess there are no questions from the floor, so thank you, Jose. And I see I have to do a little bit of time management here. So can I ask for our next presenter, please?